Welcome to Team Redstone's Women's History Month Observance, hosted for you by Army Materiel Command and Fox Army Health Center.
All right, well, thank you so much for taking time to set aside to celebrate and honor the women of our history. And as March is set aside for Women's History Month, the reason we do that is for inspiration that maybe can help us see things that we can do ourselves to make things better for others, and to encourage young girls that they have a bright future in front of them. And so when I think about a good role model for women, I think of Eleanor Roosevelt. She understood that it was the needs of the nation above her needs, that she had the courage to speak up and the self-confidence to know when not to speak, and that she could stay above emotions. And I felt like that really showed that she had the emotional intelligence that she needed, and she helped others see that as well. Because I think oftentimes with women, we tend to allow emotions to show. We get our feelings hurt. But if we can realize to stay above those emotions, and as Eleanor Roosevelt said, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Another quote of hers that I like is, "Small minds discuss people, average minds discuss events, and great minds discuss ideas." So if we can focus on those ideas, those things that we see that we can do to make a difference, and not focus on the little things, then that gives us the courage to go do what we need to do. And so when I think about most significant, I think about those accomplishments that have changed society. And August 26, 2020 was a 100-year anniversary of the woman's right to vote. And the ladies who pursued that cause, they started in 1848, and Congress did not ratify that as giving women that right until 1920. 72 years they spent working their cause, and even through the influenza pandemic, which was the deadliest pandemic of all times. And so even when they were experiencing something like we're experiencing today, they kept their focus on what was important, and it has changed society. Another person who I think changed society was Mother Teresa. We now have hospice and the Centers for the Blind today because of the efforts that she did. She was truly a servant leader. She saw the needs of people, and she defined the how to get after caring for those people, and she showed that each and every day, and I think her accomplishments are very significant. When I think of success, I think of a quote from Emerson: "To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded." I hope that my legacy will be that people will know that I was a servant leader, that I helped operationalize the Army Materiel Command, the how of what we do, that I helped define processes, systems, and procedures. I provided opportunities for training and for AMC to be successful. Because excellence to me is based upon understanding those processes and those systems and repeating it day after day. Personalities are not going to ensure excellence and success. We have to have those processes. I hope that if there was something that I implemented or influenced, that people would recognize that and do the same for others in the future. So thank you again. I appreciate taking the time to think about women and the role that they have played in our history.
There are so many women throughout history who have proven to be role models. Most recently, I would say Michelle Obama, who's truly made a worldwide impact over the course of her 8 years of service as First Lady of the United States of America. Michelle Obama is building a legacy of empowerment as we watch this inner-city black girl from a working-class family strive hard to achieve an Ivy League education and blaze a trail alongside her husband all the way to the White House as the President of the United States. As First Lady for 8 years, she displayed grace and elegance in speech and demeanor.
The business skills, the mentoring, the networks they need to blossom from struggling entrepreneurs into successful businesswomen, oftentimes doubling on average the number of employees on their payroll and quintupling their revenues. And efforts like these don't just boost women's balance sheets. They also transform the way women see themselves and how their communities see them as well. Because when we empower women economically, they come to view themselves not just as business owners, but as leaders, as people who should have a say in the workings of their companies, but also in the affairs of their families, in their communities, and their countries. And as they start making their voices heard and taking their rightful place in their societies, that has a ripple effect, particularly on our young people, both our daughters and our sons, who receive an unambiguous message that women are not property, they are not second-class citizens, but instead they are breadwinners, they're change agents, they're people whose voices and contributions matter. Absolutely.
And left us with mantras like, when they go low, we go high, and who can forget the infamous fist bump. Michelle Obama is a role model for girls and women to see what greatness looks like and the proof of concept on how to get there. I'm just so grateful that we're actually honoring women this month. I think we take it for granted, the greatness that is around us. I'm grateful to be part of this. Thank you so much for highlighting Women's Month, and we'll see you around.
Women's History Month is important to observe because women have contributed a lot to society. For one, we are the mothers and sisters and aunts of everyone who become something in the world. So everyone who's made something of themselves in history has a mother who raised them, usually a female figure that has raised them. In my case, my mother and my two grandmothers played a large part of my upbringing. So any success that I have, I attribute to what they've taught me. When trying to narrow it down, I tried to find a woman in history that didn't start off with privilege. I chose Sacagawea as my American hero, a Shoshone woman, really a teenager. In these days, she would be considered a child, but at the age of 16, she was chosen to be part of the Lewis and Clark expedition across the Northwest Passage. And what's really special about her, in comparison to all of the men on the expedition, she was the only woman. She was also pregnant with her first child, and she was only about 16, without her mother or any other women moving through this treacherous terrain like the Rocky Mountains. She wasn't just someone's wife. She was an interpreter. She was native to the land. To do all of that and have a baby and then rear the child all along the way, I think that it's certainly something no man has ever done. You know, my grandmothers lived through the Depression, and my mom grew up in the 1950s and 60s. The world changes around them right before our eyes, and they always told me that, you're not going to always have the life that you wanted, so you just have to do your best with what you have. And so raise your children to be good, contributing citizens, live well, and help people.
We have to look at the history of women and acknowledging who we are and what we bring not only to the country at large, but to the nations, to the families, to the communities. And even if you look back at times before, even with the suffrage movement, we received the right to vote, but it was always as an after effect. We have to do those things that are right, and it is right to acknowledge the importance of Women's History Month. My most recent mentor, and I would call her my mentor, was retired Lieutenant General Bingham. I was impressed by her because she was a 2-star Major General at the time, and I was just beginning in the ranks as an SES. Yet when she made the appointment, she came to my location to sit down with me, and that meant so much to me, and she has always been there, and even now I can reach out to her for any guidance and or direction. And most important one would be my mother. I mean, she's gone now. I lost her in 2016, but my mother was my biggest advocate. My mother was there letting me know not to let the environments around me define who I am. My mother always encouraged me to know that I could do whatever I put my mind to. One of the things that is very, very important to me on a personal and professional level is mentorship. And I actually did my dissertation on mentorship and its role in advancing women. So I took that truly to heart, and I reach out to as many women as I can to provide a mentoring, not only within the workforce. I do a lot of outreach within the community. Mentorship is very, very important to me because I think it is important for us to learn from our lessons and try to pass that information on, pass that torch to the behind us, that bench of those upcoming, because sometimes it is necessary to reach out and give them assistance, help them redirect their focus, help them find out what are their strengths and how to exploit those, what are their weaknesses and how to shore those up. That is truly a responsibility that we have. We hold ourselves to such high expectations, and sometimes that is to our detriment. However, please be passionate about what you want to do. Be passionate about your experience. Be passionate about your technical career and your understanding of who you are as a person, but be willing to put your name in the hat.
From the Army Materiel Command and Fox Army Health Center, thank you for joining Team Redstone in observing March as Women's History Month.